welcome to my lovely HP community and the 5D collective. We have our new moon and 5D messages as we keep moving towards the end of our year and the beginning of the next. And so, your life partner material, you are, if you are internally securely attached, okay, and so for our 5D collective, also we have motivational mindset, life advice, and spiritual readings that get you to continue to pursue mindfully, spiritually living and loving as your true self. And your true self is a inner child that's fast asleep and that has a higher self grown up. And that means you know how to use your ventral vagal state, the social engagement system. So, with that being said, if they dismiss healing all trauma, do not waste time in the relationship romantically because they're not romance. Okay, let me read to you as we have some for you to hear. Yesterday we talked about this. The seed that gives you integrity is being yourself with healed childhood trauma or never losing you. So you don't lose your child parts. I didn't lose mine, and I got to grow up with mindfulness, mindset because I didn't have any of that rejection of myself, okay? And that's where, remember, determined, Robert Sapolsky, his qualitative, I think it's going to be the analysis, but he presents those first 3 years make sense, and so does Stephen Porges. I'll read you some quotes in a little bit, and so does every other smart therapist and neuroscientist and all that. So, the seed that sustains lost integrity is a paused self from unhealed and ignored childhood trauma. And due to the fact that there's a bunch of people of different types of titles and certificates and all that telling you not to go to therapy, well, I don't like to create groups, but I may. The 5D collective, we're only going to be dating healthy self-worth people. They're the ones who take healing seriously because they don't want to bring to us their 0 to 8-year-old with the threat response. And so, pause self people and mystics are in the 3D, 4D collective frequency because they lead with unhealed charged trauma patterns. They come from many different places than besides the child part charges. Thoughts and behaviors that are also unhealed and repetitive. So, fear of abandonment, rejection, envy, jealousy, spite. Things that can be tended to when you learn healthy self-worth and emotional, mental, and physical regulation in your ventral vagal state as you get taught by your parents and home and teachers and all to use two sides of the brain. Mindfulness practices are good for that. So is mindsight. Mindsight means though you have emotions and all this stuff is contained so you don't have stuff that is overwhelming, and the good therapists are very smart. We can notice, I'm not a therapist, but I'm taught from them. So I can tell if I got a pseudo-live person in front of me, if I got a dorsal vagal online. And yeah, actively when stuff's going on, I'm a somatic empath besides being a 5D mystic. But really, the somatic empaths, they're just not mystics because they don't come with the downloads and the channeled guidance and the angels and the archangels and the relationship with Holy Spirit and God and Jesus and everything and anything, Atlantean, Lemurian, you name it. I've met some new galactic species recently. It's really fun, 5D mystic land. When it comes to the lower frequency people, we're not afraid of them because even if they come in our sphere, it's all unhealed childhood trauma people. That really, it's not anything except for fear, shame, and again, the squirrels from Cusco land, you name it. They just keep doing Cusco, squirrel, Yzma, Ursula, and there you go. So the perpetuation of this trauma, it's through their mind, heart, and body and self. And it leads in the threat response and a modulated and dysregulated embodiment. This is why they also use the dark sides of neuroplasticity, which is imagination and their words, obviously. They wire themselves shut in the inner and outer critic mindset with their shame cycle, self-fulfilling prophecies, and really a lot of nightmare stuff that plays out for the remainder of their life, in their relationships, and then also in their mind. And I'm not even joking. I would not want to be there. It's called Family in the Head by Dr. Daniel Fox, and it's also called Shame Cycle, Blame, Fault, Revenge. So yeah, anybody who has inner critic and then outer critic, I've met them, the structural dissociation when it happens too. I've learned how to handle it. But luckily I don't have that many people who are in that level of human. No, it's because I reiterate my boundaries whenever it's happened. So I've been accused, you're lying to me, you're keeping me on hold on purpose. That's called anxious, unhealthy. In the grandiose, terror real, he has a lovely little, and then we have the not grandiose, anxious, the one in shame. It isn't enough to be saluted. So the anxious, they make sure you hear them. That's why you can address them. The healthy, self-worth, empowered, feminine, empowered, masculine. As for the ones who are avoidant, they just shut you out, which is okay because we're like, okay, I wasn't trying to impose my love on you in the first place. In the meantime, in shame, when they're in by themselves, it's really horrible because they think they're going to die. No, they actively just give up. And then hopefully they make it out. If we got them on the top, what they think is, look at me now. Look at me without you. And they will think that they're doing awesome. And you know, I hope that always that these people stay in those places, but what you understand by unhealthy self-worth is that they have an inner and outer critic. So they do split thinking, black and white thinking. They actively ruminate, which means they won't be able to let go of anything. And in fact, even if you are not a person who tries to do anything, that's why, again, I've been accused, you're keeping me on hold on purpose. Like, days after something has been discussed, I get to hear messages and I say, look, I don't do friendships this way. I actively am being called a liar right now, so you need to make up your mind. If I'm a liar, then we don't be friends, because I don't choose friends that are going to lie to me. I mean, even if you did, sooner or later I'd find out, but no, I don't say any of that because my facade friend, again, I learned from him. But my point is, when you have healthy boundaries, my friend and I are still friends. This is a very specific situation. We went through a lot of different moments, and neither of us blocked each other or any of that, because I learned again from my facade friend that I wouldn't ever do that again, because I loved my facade friend even in the 5 years that I was speaking bloody angry shit because of a lot of things that you don't know about. But anyways, back to us. So again, the 4D, 3D, it's totally karma, people, but it's not a bad thing, because them living out their 0 8-year-old isn't bad. They will most likely follow the laws, and the ones who don't, they end up in prison, and then they can get therapy because the smart people are in those jails at this point. So karma is the choice of the paused self because, well, it's not really a choice, but Robert Sapolsky would say that they've been determined. So mystics and people of the 3D, 4D collective, again, they don't pursue healing trauma. With a good therapist, they also don't care about what they bring to life in relationships with the adaptive child, rigid thinking, and maladaptive patterns of behaviors. Because otherwise they would go and tend to that so that they could then live a heart and soul relationship with me. You know what I'm saying? So from the story of my facade friend, just remember that one. We're going to get to more in a minute. Okay, so whole self people and mystics, on the other hand, we are in the 5D collective frequency because we lead in our internal secure attachment. And that means that we have healed and or healing trauma. So you have a good relationship now with your emotional body, feelings online. You're learning self-regulation in your ventral vagal state because you're also, hey, self parts, you're all welcome. No disowned parts. So in time, all this stuff. And you don't use, the dark or light sides of yourself. The 4D is always all over this. I have a dark side. My shadow is coming out. And they got on screen. And you're like, that's re-traumatizing yourself. And really we're getting to see what you did at home, and you're not really doing anything different from the threat response. Your nervous system hasn't budged 1 inch since you began doing this. You just keep doing the same every year, or every so often you have the same karma cycle. But I guess it's okay, right? Because it's none of my business. God told me to mind my own business about all of this stuff, and Robert Sapolsky tells me you have no free will, so I stand down. Okay, and again, no disowned child parts for the 5D instead. So we come out and play, and all our parts, all the self, if there's any alters, they become whole in time, because integration of the brain is beautiful. I have a course, Dissociative Identity Disorder and Disorganized Attachment, with Dr. Daniel Siegel. And I also have one, Dissociative Disorders, with Ruth Lanius and Bethany. I always forget her last name, from NICBM, and I have a lot more of trauma in-depth courses with NICBM, my Somatopia trauma certificate course, and then Awakened Embodied certificate course. That's from Embodied Philosophy. So there's more than just that, but my point is there's a lot of smart human beings out there, and I have the honor of learning from them. And so again, we, the 5D collective in general, we have the capacity and desire to self-regulate in our safety ventral vagal state. That means socially engaging. And I might be using the safety word wrong, so remember, I use words wrong sometimes. But the point is our ventral vagal state. And we use the bright sides of neuroplasticity, our imagination and the words and our thoughts. because we own, observe, witness, narrate our own mind and body and sense of self and solo self and our heart. So we're like, hey, what's up? And there's thoughts, hey, what's up? And there's feelings. And that's why mindfulness, mindset practices are always going to be welcome. The inner growth is the foundation, dealing unknowns, uncertainties, unwanteds from an open heart. And that's with the flow, which is really awesome. Whether you're channeling or not, my gosh, is the flow state amazing. So Dharma is your choice when you're whole self. That's our 5D collective. And mystics and people, as we pursue healing or are healed again with those trauma charges, and then we pursue having a good relationship with thoughts and emotions, and we care about what we bring to life. And then in our relationships, right? And so we pursue having a functional inner child adult thinking and patterns of behaviors, not the maladaptive, not drinking, drugging, fucking, or any shame, blame, fault, revenge, envy, none of that, jealousy. No, none of emotional, unavailable, immature, again, Kusk attitude. 5D collective bring forth healthy adult relationships that heal trauma for those who want it and those who want genuine heart and soul relationships. Some don't. Again, if they're too afraid, they'd rather stay in their threat and close off. Or they go play out their unhealed business because they'll marry it eventually, or they'll find Diego partners, or, stuff like that. But in the meantime, for us, we have healthy self-regulation and soothing within our body with an empowered feminine by engaging our social engagement nervous system, our mind with an empowered masculine by having and pursuing bilateral and vertical and overall integration of the brain. There's 9 domains of integration. Thank you, Dr. Daniel Siegel. And self-regulating and soothing our heart with a functional inner child adult who is accountable and accepts flaws. I got flaws. I got rejected at 4 because I was too serious. With integrity and unconditional love, I can stand and say, you know what? It's okay that I'm different. Thank you for the time. See you later. No, I won't because you don't want to. Yeah, but thank you. And that's also God who taught me how to be humble and Jesus to forgive for they don't know. And Stephen Porges is what biological rudeness is. And this is why it's not Lucifer. It's only people who don't want to take healing their trauma seriously. So we will cultivate lifelong, loving, secure attachment relationships. They're always authentic, like with my facade friend, who I love to death, but who taught me very well how any person who does not take healing all of their trauma child stuff seriously, though their child part's the very bare minimum, well, one, they're definitely not romantic because they don't know how romance works, because they don't know how to love and laugh and then to expand and to learn and to have heart-to-heart conversations with your soul involved and to keep doing it. They don't know emotional availability, emotional mastery. They don't know how to have. I love when I'm sharing my heart and soul with a person who's also sharing their heart and soul. Is the depth of that emotional, mental, and physical presence is you and your pure state of consciousness and me. And my facade friend taught me how people who don't maintain their pure state of consciousness, and in my friend's case, they never even got remotely close to it, because, again, when you meet any of those who have childhood trauma stuff that they didn't heal, fear of abandonment, rejection, they're all teenagers. In fact, I met them all, which is why as I got older, I'm like, what's happening? Why? No, I didn't actually. As I got older, I just thought nothing except for I'm busy with life. And now I'm attachment trauma informed. And my message for right now, and we're going to then move on to some channel guidance after. If they dismiss healing, all of it, I chose that word on purpose since there's people who tell you not to do all of it. Instead, I know the smart ones, Dr. Daniel Siegel, Dr. Daniel Fox, to name 2. It's all possible. Pat Ogden, Peter Levine, Stephen Porges. I got all these people, and I believe in you like I believe in the choo-choo train, and he made it. So I'm not going to say I don't believe in. No, I believe. Now, you can choose not to do what the choo-choo train did. I will raise my hands. Robert Sapolsky says you have no free will. There's a good excuse, so you don't have to feel in any way upset at some of us who are able to be this. And God told me to mind my own business with the 0-1-year-old who doesn't want to go and get good therapy, and in either or, I'm going to do that. But in the meantime, I'm here as a content creator, mindfulness practitioner, mystic, and human being who says, hey, I got something that can help you to be more of yourself. And I didn't know how many aspects there would be to consider, but now that I do, and now that I continue to do more, it's all bonus, because you get first your child uncharged, and then you're ready, because we got a bilaterally vertically integrated brain who's willing and wanting to really, again, do life for real, and that's romance. I love to love. And my baby, he loves to dance and he loves to learn. He loves to expand and share his heart and soul for real, not pretend. So catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Never let it fade away. And save it for a rainy day. And what I actually wanted to read before I forget is our lovely Sadhguru, just in case you don't tune into other episodes. So, as he shares, smartness is only socially valuable. Intelligence is the way of nature. And I say no, smartness is valuable. So is intelligence. And the people who have both, that's awesome because we have a good time. Then we have, this one is from Frank Anderson, MD. External connection should be a placeholder for the fostering of the internal connection and attachment trauma. Yes, you need healthy self-worth people to engage with so that you can internally stay securely attached. No, you get internally securely attached thanks to having the exchange with people who you love and they love you. And then remembering that they're healing. So as long as they're healing all trauma, we won't have somebody who stays with this fight or flight. Doesn't always work for us, and this is the whole story underlying trauma. Stephen Porges. Or here again, Stephen, he's ventral vagal toning expert. I have a course with him. I have a bunch of them, but one that I have on the side to finish. When people get triggered into their mobilization defenses or shutting down, develop elaborate narratives to make sense of what their body is doing. So they make up a lot of stories. In fact, he says it's not the narratives. They may be interesting, but at the foundation we have, are you in your, I think he says, I keep confusing this one. Let me grab my notes. I think he says the safety, social engagement system of ourselves, but this is where we also have what are called safety behaviors, and that's a whole different thing. When engaging in cues of safety, so when they engage with you who are in the state of safety, the ventral vagal state, somebody who is in a state of threat or life threat, it's if they're open to their self and the state of safety, if you will. So that's why you can have somebody who's not, and that's the moment of truth where you will have people who don't take ownership. So once you notice a Cusco, like my facade friend, you got a teenager in the room. You just allow yourself to know that. Stephen Porges, PhD. For many people who have been traumatized, the event is bad enough, but the consequences of that event on their physiology and on their nervous system is what profoundly changes their ability to adapt in the world. And yet they can adapt in the world when they're healing with the EMDR, child parts work, somatic sensory motor, with a good therapist, like a Patrick Tiahan, a Dr. Daniel Siegel, Dr. Daniel Fox. And again, childhood trauma eventually catches up to everyone who went through it. If the person is up to spotting it, that's when we know they can take it seriously, or they might not. And 3D, 4D keep on just allowing themselves to tell you not to go to therapy. On the other hand, here's where Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within you. Yoga is a method to experience the within. Thank you, Sadhguru, as he wishes us Merry Christmas. And in fact, all the smart therapists that I've learned from say self-loathing, gut-wrench, torn apart is in here. As you heal it, you walk out of the hellhole. It burns, but you get to heaven in your body eventually because that's your birthright. The restorative embodiment, self-aware, accountable, regulating person. And people with childhood trauma, studies have been showing, they're small samples, but showing that their journey, their will to heal, and doing mindset, mindfulness, yoga, doing with a objective, not just prancing around. 3D, 4D, they like their Elsa coats. That's the whole point. I see them. They're doing half of it, little pieces here and there. I'm talking you take care of your whole self. So you don't do half of it. I've had people ask for shortcuts when it's very explainable. There's no shortcut to integration. There's you. Do you want to use your prefrontal? Do you want to get on a journey? And that's when you're going to be your spiritual process and awaken and all that, until the moment of you seeing somebody, for example, doing spiritual readings with Judgment Day, and you got some jealous going on in it. Those are all 3D, 4D. They're teenagers, fine, they can do, again, there's a voice for every group. I'm not here for the ones who are acting like dress up. And that's where, to me, as a mystic and a person of faith, I'm like, okay, you actively are in a threat response is very clear to me because you're frontal lobes are flopped down, your amygdala's all over it, and alert, it's because of the shit that comes out of your mouth as you're reading and as you're saying things. And then I'm thinking of the 0 to 8 year olds and all of the trauma and attachment experts that I've learned from, and all this is adaptive child stuff. All I have to see is, my colleagues are against me, but I know the studies are showing narcissism isn't healable. Wow, really? You are really not hearing yourself. As Dr. Daniel Fox, though, would tell me, you have lack of self-awareness and you do lack accountability, too. As I know narcissists who are healing, like Kylie. I know borderline personality who's healing. I know people who are healing and they get hate mail because of lack of imagination for evil people. So as long as we have the ones who are spreading false rumors, like yoga brings demons out of you, we can share data, even though I'm pseudoscience lady. So remember, I forget things, I confuse words, I will fuck it up. I know it because my brain doesn't do good with regurgitation, and then that's, I also don't try. So again, our lovely new moon, it's enlightening to say the least. You are all life partner material, and every person is, except for the ones who are basically not our life partners. Because them wanting to shame, blame, fault, revenge, and use mannerisms that are not of a Cusco, but that are of people who we all know what they carry with them. Yeah, we're okay to letting them hang out with the fancy man and woman in suit who are going to create their little groups, like the flat earthers. They all isolate. You know why isolation happens? Rigid brains don't like that which is different. So when you are open to life in general, and you're not an ego that's a spiritual ego or science ego, basically an ego that's rigid in the adaptive child, you're going to be, no, isolation is not the smart thing. It's also not in favor of life. It's also not natural to want to be all by ourselves, because that's not really what the globe is for. But really, it's because I'm talking again to the 5D collective. So I look forward to expanding infinite higher human conscious potential people coming over. So the more I make sure you understand, expansion means all. I love to have in-depth conversations, especially when I meet the men and women who have, this, and they're open and they want this. And now I have a smart brain who's also intellectually stimulating because they gather and know information in a way that is involving. Because see, here's where all men and women and theys who are embodying pure consciousness are smart. Not by being one focused or enamored. That's not smart. Those people, they just, we need all people because otherwise we wouldn't have all this information. Their focus is actually, we could say they do the grunt work. We get to have fun with it because that's the part. We get to be the ones who have novelty, creative expression, because we have the adolescent essence, social engagement, and we're building what are genuine relationships because passion never dies. We also have that essential spark because our whole 3-year-old heart. We'll be back with more, but internal secure attachment is this mindfulness, mindset practices. They help this. You being able to know emotions, thoughts easily. It takes your time in the state of awareness. A Zen master calls it laundry. He doesn't know how to do the flow state. Not everybody does. Then there are other men who think the flow state for women is all by yourself, and they actively have made very impressive motivational speeches that are not motivating a smart brain. They're only motivating the ones, my colleagues, everyone's against me, I'm all special, I'm enlightened, what shall I ever do but lock myself away from all those nasty frequency people. This is exactly what the 4D do. I'm not even impressed. I mean, I never was impressed. I just now have all of it very clear, so I'm sharing. Yes, when you meet a 4D mystic, you're going to know if you're 5D. If you're not, then you're going to think, we skipped 4D. Sure we did. Yeah. Who believes that a twin flame connection could be in the absence of passion and emotion? How any relationship, for that matter, would be in anywhere near lack of passion and emotion. I mean, brains that are novel and creative, they come up with the most amazing of surprises. It's not even funny. I love it. I love my brain, mine, and those of empowered men and women. But I was thinking, because every now and then I get some creative sparks on how to celebrate life and celebrate people and celebrate everything and anything. And it's like it never dies. I used to be called the little energizer battery that could. I'm still the same energy battery. Okay, so again, we will be back in a little bit. In the meantime, please do remember, it's not personal. But if somebody doesn't want to heal their trauma, all of it, don't invest. Don't waste. Don't waste. Not invest. Don't waste. Don't waste not even 1 second. The minute a person's shown me they're emotionally wiggly in some way that doesn't have the capacity to speak to me, I already learned from teenage boyfriend what cowards do, and teenage friends. My facade friend reiterated it. And, well, lo and behold, anybody who did reiterate it after that doesn't really know shit unless they have the balls to have an actual conversation with me, which would mean that they are a person who has self-awareness, accountability, and they know what they bring to the table, which is great because I know what I bring. I'm imperfect and flawed just like anybody else. But the difference is I won't hide myself. And that's not good or bad. It's just I won't hide. Also, my mother taught me how to be a person who apologizes. The whole unapologetically, no. That is really not something a grown, emotionally mature, mentally mature person. The ones who need that are the fight response 16-year-olds who can continue, if they want, to hang out with Patrick Tiahan. That way, whenever they're ready to forgive in general, they can come back around. But at least in the meantime, they're hanging out with a group of people who take accountability for the unkindness that comes up from their own childhood stuff. And they're able to allow themselves to, in a community, say, guess what? My stuff from home came up, and this is how I was using it, and they can have a shared floor. Because, see, to me, it's not about you being all gooey and ooey. No, we all have moods, different ones. I don't have that type of stuff because I was allowed to do it all. And so I don't have any pent-up anger. But I'm saying when you have people who don't know how to take ownership of the child parts that come up, and they're in a threat response, and you're an external person who's in your social engagement system who's just enjoying, that is what projection is. It doesn't offend anyone. I have attachment trauma information, so I'm explaining to you like I've seen this. I'm not offended. It's not personal at all. In fact, it's nothing except for me knowing, technically speaking, how to explain it to you. And then very proudly do I say, as Jesus taught me, forgive, they don't know. I don't need to use the word though. I don't owe them anything. They don't owe me anything. I know how to regulate my nervous system because I'm in the presence of a person who doesn't. And really, I just know how to explain it because I got empowered by facts. You can't have information without facts and data. And I am the least good with them, but I was reading some of the 4D writing as always. They bring you to felt sense of self. Facts aren't true, and that's why we have a bunch of them saying, we're going to prove spirituality. How? God's invisible. Don't you know Reiki is too? And we got theologians who want to make it the devil's energy. I mean, really, anyone not understand how to use two sides of the brain? I do know how, and I'm sure that you do if you're still tuning in here at this point. And no, some people don't, which is okay. They don't have to. Like, I don't know how to regurgitate information in a certain way. I'm never going to learn, or maybe I will, but it would only be a smart brain that would be able to teach me, because they'd be able to read my weak spots to the point of saying, okay, here's the weak spots, and they wouldn't even point it out. They would just know how to work with me. This is the magic of brains that are smart. I love it. So again, we'll be back with more, but 5D Collective, we have a lot in store for us. It's all good, and it's all fun, and it's thanks to the sciences, because spirituality already gave us wisdom, and we keep using it. But the spiritual ego people, they disregard and discard sciences, and that's why they spread rumors about yoga and mindfulness. And the ones in cloaks who want to say that they stand for something, I stand still with God, Holy Spirit, and Jesus, and I stand in a way that is, I can't believe it. I knew when I got clairs that, one, wow, no way. Two, you're going to be rejected by the ones who think that clairs and mysticism is something bad, and that they decide to keep using ancient textbooks and scriptures instead of thinking with two sides of the brain and saying, hey, let's all come together in a lovely little melting pot, which is where the spirituality community is at, which is why I thank Sadhguru for being there, because at least we have one guru who welcomes all. And that's all, in the absence of saying you're of one denomination or another, or getting all in his pants about people using words in certain ways. When he makes jokes, I love them because he's spot on with them. As a person who I can tell when he's making some types of jokes, and he's right. And I'm sure any other smart brain will notice too. So anyways, again, life partners, they're only life partner material if they are a whole human being who's using two sides of the brain, and their body is theirs, and they own their sense of self and their soul of self, so they know how it works to say, hey, I want to share my heart and soul with you consistently over time. And you know what? I love to have face-offs, because, wow, again, when you're sharing your heart and soul with someone, there's nothing scary. There's no comparison to the level of depth of appreciation and enrichment that your life has and that the other person's life has, because obviously they're in it together, and that's a safe haven, secure-based relationship. And so in time, you will build genuine, secure connections, and then the right one for the lifelong. As a mono or poly, doesn't matter, but you'll know because that's where they don't just come in and not have a plan. No, they come in with a plan, and then you'll see them walk a walk and talk a talk. And in fact, they like to revisit the plan. And guess what we do when we're revisiting? I want to draw. No, I want. No, stop. Let me choose our playground. And really, it's fun. So again, those who are not here yet, there is Terry Real and Patrick Tiahan. And so I will be back shortly. Thank you so much for stopping by. Like, share, and subscribe.